In 1994, when our parents voted, we thought we were going to be free. We've never thought that the people we entrusted with our votes that are going to be the ones that are targeting us. And we have never thought that one day we're going to fight for what our parents have fought for. Nokuthula Mabaso was a 40-year-old, very young. Ayanda Ngila was very young. He was 30 years old when he was killed in Canaan. And the killings continue, and we continue to die. And we die in the hands of the ANC. I know that there has been disputes in the media, and we know 2 ward councillors were convicted in 2016 and sentenced to life imprisonment for having killed a woman in this way. So the same way that Nokuthula was killed, Usis Tulindlovu from Kwandengezi was killed in the same way. It was for the very same reason. Both of them were fighting for this land that we are fighting for today. So Ikenana is a hope for us. It is an example of how communism should be all about. Ikenana exists in a world where blood is an order of the day. People are killed in Ward 101, and we know who the killers are. But because they are members of the ANC, leaders of the ANC, who worked with the police, our killings are planned at the highest level. That we have no doubt about. So, kunombango okhona with regards to the land in Canaan. So, iKenana izwe lesethembiso kuthina because umhlaba usetshenziselwa ukulima, usetshenziselwa ukuthi wonke abantu bakwazi ukuhlala bayiphilise. So that's what we are killed for. In KwaZulu-Natal, when you organize outside of the ruling party, you are regarded as the enemy. Because when you are living in a shack, when you are poor, impoverished, you are regarded as someone who cannot think, to such an extent that they hire an architect to think on your behalf. That's why you find development when it takes place in the informal settlement. It's not the informal settlement people who are working or behind that. They will hire someone from Sentin. They will hire someone from Umhlanga. They will hire someone anywhere else that is known as someone who can think better than you because you are poor and therefore you can't think. So there must be someone to think on your behalf because when our Iluto Mhlabin. We have seen how poverty has been. Uma ngabe uhlupheka unephunga elimbi uyanuka, your odor is different from anyone else. Mabaso was a woman like any other woman in South Africa. She was killed brutally, shot 4 times at the back, to show that it was a hit. She was even turned over when she fell and shot twice in the front. 1 bullet on the breast and the other in the stomach. So those who killed Mabaso knew what they were doing. They did not want to leave her alive. So no matter what you could have done, because we sit around as activists, sometimes when we are faced this in Abahlali Basemjondolo, we say we could have prevented this. There could have been something that could have been done. But the hitman who killed Mabaso knew what he was doing. Her cell phone was taken away after the assassination. which proves that there was some information that these people wanted from her. Mabaso was due to be a key witness in Ayandangila's murder trial. We have informed the police, but the police do not listen to us. I mean, I know that every life in this country counts, and we dare not compare life and say this one is better and this one is not. But we had hoped that the very same way that others were given time frame to uncover a murder, it should have been done the same with Mabaso. But who is she in this society? She's just a shack dweller. She's just a woman who was trying to motivate the community to have its own food sovereignty so that the communities can sustain themselves. Her dignity did not count in the society, in the eyes of the government. And which is why tomorrow we will be honoring her. Because we understand as Abahlali baseMjondolo that we are alone and no one is here to fight this fight with us. So the fight for land for us has been paid with blood. The price has been blood. We have lost 23 activists. All of them, in fact, very rare in an occupation that takes place in Abahlali where we would not have somebody assassinated or killed by the police in a protest or by the anti-land invasion unit. So if you are not assassinated by Izinkabi, hired by high-profile ANC politicians, you are either killed by police in a protest, or you are either killed by the anti-land invasion unit, which is an armed body of the municipalities, which ensures that people do not occupy land. Even when we go to court, they will continue to actually evict people, forcefully remove them. So we are facing these killings that are taking place because we are using land. Abahlali baseMjondolo believe that land was created by God for us to create our own food, for us to live. Land should not be privatized and owned by certain individuals because they think they are superior than others. And we have dispelled that as Abahlali baseMjondolo, that we are going to create our own community. We are going to create our own autonomy. We are going to create our own food. We are going to create our own political education. We are going to create our own way of sustaining the community so that people don't go to sleep on an empty stomach. That is the crime that we are being targeted for. We are being killed because of the land. Tulindlovu was shot 7 times in front of her kids. When we went to actually visit, because I had a call at 7 o'clock in the evening, and when we got there, he had a 2-year-old child, Freedom. When we got there, the child did not know what was happening. She thought the mother was sleeping. The mother was in a pool of blood, and the child was still crawling, thinking that umama usazovuka. And when we got to Mabaso's home, Mabaso had a child who was living with disability. And up until today, he thinks that his mother is in hospital and she will come back. So we know any killing, every life is important. But we've never thought that there are people who are so cruel, who have lost moral in this country to such an extent that they will kill a woman in the manner that they kill a mother of the children. So imagine a 5-year-old growing, not having a mother for the rest of their lives. But one of the things that we have been encouraged that has made us to continue with the struggle regardless of whether we are going to be killed one day or not is the resilience, the resistance, the courage that we get from the membership of Abahlali Basemjondolo, particularly in this occupation in Canaan. We had thought that after, within a space of 2 months, having lost 2 leaders, the community would give up. But when we got to the scene, the community was, there were new leaders who were emerging, who were ready to fight. And they all prepared that their lives will end in Canaan. When we went to the rural area where Mabaso was born, her mother came and said, I expected this because my child told me when she came and visited her home, which is 20 kilometers away from Durban, she told her mother of the threats that she was facing. But the message to the mother was, ma igazi lami selizophalala eCanaan because angeke ngikwazi ukushiya lo mhlaba sulwele kanzima. So that happened. One day in one of the conversations on the day that Ayanda Ngila was killed, I asked him, where is your family? How does your family feel about this, being an activist? And he said, my uncle, whom I live with now because I lost my parents, I told him that it's either we win this occupation in Canaan or he will come and pick up my body there. So both of their lives have ended in the land in Canaan. The Tulindlovu, even when he was phoned by police to inform her to stop what she was doing because the police were no longer going to protect her from the hitmen, she continued and she said, I will die for this. Kulego Kwala, who was killed with 14 bullets in Cato Crest, who was the chairperson of the branch in Cato Crest, also knew that he was going to be killed, because when you are killed in KZN, you are told prior. And when they tell you, it's not because they are not, or they are scaring you. No, they are going to come and kill you. So, Comrade Mabaso was in a meeting, and there were discussions in the meeting about how they're going to approach the case where one of the suspected people who murdered Ayanda Ngila was appearing for another case of attempted murder, because these people feel that they can do whatever they want because they have connection in the police, and of course it's ANC, so the Minister of Police will not respond to anything that the ANC is doing because he has vested interest in KwaZulu-Natal, because he knows he's going to get support. So whatever the ANC feels like doing, they can do it. So the law, it does not work for us. We are killed with impunity. There's no way where you can have 2 murders taking place in a small informal settlement in that way, and we are pointing the finger and saying, these are the people who have made threats. The man that we are talking about in our press statement, Mr. Ngubane, stood up in court and said there will be bloodshed in Canaan. And this is happening now. And we are pointing the police to that. The person who's being arrested for the attempted murder was seen by Mabaso when Ayanda Ngila was shot and killed. The person who was hired by the 2 ward councillors was paid 15,000 rand to actually carry that, to kill an activist. That is information that was in court, that 15,000 rand was paid to someone to actually assassinate a mother of 2, one of which was only 2 years at that time. So, comrades, I'm here to say that the price of land in KwaZulu-Natal, as we speak about land and politics today, ours has been paid in blood. In Ekukanyeni, one of the informal settlements next to Maran Hill, before even the occupation started, there was a body lying down of Samuel Hlwili. When we responded there, a young man was shot from the back and the bullet came on the front. You could see that this person was running away from the anti-land invasion unit. Up until today, nothing has materialized from that case. Sifiso Ngobo from the same branch was killed, and before he was killed, he organized a meeting, a gathering of Abahlali, and invited the national leadership. And in his statement, and he said, I know I'm going to die, and we are all going to die. It is better to die in truth than to pretend. So that was Sifiso Ngobo. When we got to Canaan, Ubaba Unjomane, who is the husband of Mabaso, said something very profound. We were here to give support to this family and the community. And he said that I am deeply hurt about what happened to my wife. And what will be more hurtful for me is to see Abahlali giving up on the struggle for socialism, the struggle for land, dignity, and decent housing. He said, now this is somebody who has lost someone who has not even, buried his wife. But he says, what will hurt even more for me is that my wife's blood goes in vain. And that my wife, if thina njengabahlali sizowuthatha umthwalo sobeke eceleni sithi asiqhubeki naloko ngoba kuyafiwa la. So uthi kufanele siqhubeke nalomsebenzi lo besiwenza. So asikwazi ukugive up kwiCanaan because isitha sizojabula, iANC izojabula. So umhlaba ke waseCanaan ubangwa abantu kune-ANC. So there are those who want to use the land for commercial purposes. Kufuna bafuna ukwakha ama-flat so that bawadayise or baqashise ngawo. So that's what the ANC wants. Abahlali on the other side in Canaan are trying to build a community where they can sustain themselves so that abantu abangasebenzi bakwazi ukudla. So every day there's a group of people those who are working will wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to work in the garden, and those who are unemployed will work throughout the day. So everyone puts in some effort in that garden. Whatever has been harvested from the garden will then be shared at the community hall. Whatever proceed has been made in the communal tuck shop, there's a communal tuck shop, the profit will be put as a community hall, and it will be decided whether it's going to buy seeds for the garden or whether it's going to buy more chickens or food for chickens and so forth. So everything is communally discussed within the Frantz Fanon School. The Frantz Fanon School acts both as a political, there's political education, but there's also ecology education within that. When you go to Canaan and you go to in the community hall, there's a writing that says Steve Biko lives. And when Ayanda Ngila was killed, he was wearing a t-shirt with a Steve Biko quote that it's better to die for an idea that is going to live than to live for an idea that is going to die. So you could see that this person meant what he said. So there's an ideology behind the killings that are taking place in Canaan, that these young people have actually been an example in the movement, but also have built a society that we want to see, a society where people know there is no one that is rich but we are all equal in this society, and everything in this society, there's a democratic process whenever decisions are made. So, but people on the outside see this as a threat. They see that if this kind of idea starts in this community, it will grow in the entire movement. And once it does, it will not, the ANC will no longer lie, because what happens is the ANC sees people who are living in informal settlement as banks for votes. You only see politicians in the informal settlement during elections making promises that they never fulfill. But if people can feed themselves, if people can look after themselves, if people can have their own water, if people can have their own electricity, if people can have their own flush toilets that they created themselves, if people can have their own garden which provide food for the entire community, if people can have ways of creating corporates and be able to sustain the entire community, that no child go to sleep without food, no child go to school without having eaten, no family should go to sleep on an empty stomach. If that idea is created within the people's mind, that it's all in your hands, you can do whatever you want, then the ANC has no place to come and lie to the people in the informal settlement and make empty promises. Because we are kept in the informal settlement for that purpose, so that they could come 5 years later and say, we will put water for you, we will put electricity for you, we will put this and that and so forth, we will develop you and so forth. So people go and vote for the very same thing because they think there's hope there. But if people can stand up for themselves and do things for themselves, then the ANC would not be able to come into the informal settlement and lie. So we are being killed because we have become people who have conscientized people of the masses. We are building the power of the impoverished from below. We are saying that the power of the masses can be stronger than the power of those who are in parliament and everywhere else. So when you dispel what the politicians are saying and you say to an individual, you can do whatever you want as an impoverished person and stand up for yourself. Because that's what Abahlali stands for. We struggle for a better society, a society where everyone is equal, a society that is just, a society where people can actually say, we have made this ourselves. But that is what we are killed for. So every occupation of Abahlali Basemjondolo that you have seen, that you have heard of, whether it's in Ketocrest, whether it's in Nkanini, whether it is, in fact, in Canaan, what has happened was the ward councillor will, armed with his gun, will come and demolish with his BEC to just demolish people's structures when we were still occupying that place. So when we are saying that the ANC is killing us, it's not something that we are taking from anywhere else. It is because we have seen what the ANC is capable of, and we have seen what the ANC has done to us over the years. So our struggle for land has been paid in blood. And comrade, we are not going to retreat. In a General Assembly that we had this weekend, people said, let's all die. If it means that the 23 is doubled, let it be. But we are not going to give up on the land that we've occupied. We are not going to give up on the fight for the impoverished in South Africa. And we are going by all means to fight against the capital's government of the ANC. The ANC is corrupt. But the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal is corrupt to the core. And corruption in KwaZulu-Natal is not shame. In fact, you are an idiot if you are in the ANC and you are not corrupt. That's how they see you. Money that belongs to the people. People were, even when Motsepe donated 30 million for the burial, councillors started funeral parlors immediately. That's how people are, I don't know. Here we are in a crisis. We have seen people, I mean, there are families who have not found their people who were taken away by floods. There's one family in Dozen Hook that lost about 7 families. There were 8 in the family. 7 have gone, all died. Only 1 person is left. Families are not been found. Others are even thinking of burying the arm or the leg that they found during these floods. People in the informal settlement were washed away. In one of our communities, an 8-year-old has not been found. In Cato Crest, a 3-month-old baby died from a shack that just fell on her. Others have just sunk on the river and we can't find them. Bodies are found by people as they walk along the river stream, and bodies have already, unrecognized. Yet there are people who see the opportunity to actually make money out of that, out of people's pains. I went to one of the community when we were doing a food security campaign, and we had food all over, and we had a list to actually, because we could see that there were more people that the demand was so high, but we said, let's look at who are the most needy, those who have lost their loved ones, those who have lost everything in the house, those who are living in the community halls. And when you got there and you put food, the entire community came and took food. Just people were fighting over food. And I asked myself, is this the South Africa in the 21st century? People are starving to such an extent that they will fight for food. And people were saying we have not seen food for a week since the floods, because government was not on the ground. Government has never been there. So what we are being killed for is exactly that. We are exposing the weakness of the government, because we have a government that is detached from what is happening on the ground. Today they can't even allocate land for people who have been washed away by floods. We are still waiting for them to allocate land, and we are saying to people, if they do not do that, go and occupy land. Because that is the only way. We must occupy land because the government of the day has failed us. They failed us in Contestation. They continue to fail us now. So if what they will do is they will take those people who were living in Kennedy Road, who were living in Foreman Road, next to the cities, and they're going to allocate them 20 kilometers away from the city, because they are afraid of the so-called ratepayers who say that they do not want black people to be in their neighborhood. So if we don't do it ourselves, no one will do it. We must occupy land, and we must make sure that we use land for the benefit of the impoverished. We must use land for food, we must use land for our communities to live, and we must organize ourselves outside of the ANC, because the ANC has failed us and it will continue to fail us. There is no interest right now. The interest that they have is who's going to be leading the ANC in December. They are concerned about what is happening in provinces in as far as their conferences is concerned. They are not concerned about the more than 3,000 people who have died in KZN. Some of them who have not been found. They are not concerned about the people who are in community halls who have no food on their tables, who have no means of making food, who have lost everything. Imagine losing your house. and losing 7 members in your family. Now you are mourning, but at the same time you are hungry. At the same time you have no hope because you have no home. And when activists like ourselves come out and say, look, this is not right. We know that South Africa has money. We know that South Africa is capable of all of these things and feeding millions of people in South Africa. And then we are killed because we expose the corruption that is taking place in government. So, comrades, for us, the occupation of land is very important. We cannot wait for those who have failed us to decide which land we're going to use. So we have called on our people, those who have been washed away by rivers, no longer to build in the rivers, but to choose the best land, the so-called prime land. Those land must be occupied. It's our land, and no ratepayers will tell us. In fact, these ratepayers came. They have no rights in our land. Imagine the municipality, it's your land, you are a municipality. But there's an interested party who says you can't build here because if you build here, that is going to devalue this. And devaluing, it doesn't mean because it's a structure. It's because you are black and you are not supposed to be in this neighborhood. Who the hell are you to tell us where to live? But because we had fake freedom in 1994, because they sold us out, the ratepayers are chasing us away from our own country, from our own land, which is why we must make sure that we occupy these pieces of land. So, comrades, one is here in hiding. We are moving in Durban in a very careful way. You have to watch where you are. You have to always inform your comrades where you are because you don't know who's next. It is clear that there's a list. It was something that we did not foresee. That the very government, the so-called democratic government, will do what they are doing to us today. Mabaso was just going to her room to check on a pot of rice that she has cooked for her children, and because she was in a meeting, then she came back to look at the pot, and as she was coming out of the house, somebody came from the back and shot her 4 times. When they saw that she was still moving, they turned her over and they shot her twice before they leave. When the women who came there saw her in pool of blood, they came and she was still alive and she ended in their hands. It's a difficult struggle when you're in KZN, but we continue to fight it. We will be failing Mabaso if we don't continue with what he was fighting for. We would be failing Ayandangila if we do not continue with what he was fighting for. We will be failing Tulindlovu, Sibonelo Mpegu, Kulego Kwala, Kumbela, Ngobile Nzuza, Sabelo Komete, so, and many others. Samuel Hlwili, Sifiso Ngcobo. All those comrades knew that they were going to die, but they continued with the struggle. And we continue, and we dare not go back. We will not. Even if we know we are facing the barrel of the gun, we will go forward. Because if you die for the land, it's better to die for an idea that is going to live. Thank you very much.